Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Chrissy, and I would like to welcome you to the Doylestown Bookshop's virtual event series. I am very happy to welcome author and friend Donna Galanti as she discusses her new middle grade novel, Unicorn Island, with Fleur Bradley. You can enter to win Donna's fun Unicorn Island giveaway by asking either Donna or Fleur a question during the event or making a comment in the chat box on what you love most about unicorns. If you would like to submit a question, please click on Ask a Question at the bottom of your screen and enter your question there. If you're watching from a phone or tablet, click the icon with a question mark to submit your questions. This contest is for U.S. residents only, and the winner will be announced live towards the end of the event. Donna and Fleur will be in conversation for about a half hour. Following that, I'll be moderating the question and answer portion of the event. If you would like to purchase the author's books from the Doylestown Bookshop, please click the button on your screen that says Buy the Books. We have curbside pickup available at both of our locations, or we can ship the book to you. Donna's going to be stopping by the bookshop tomorrow to personalize any books purchased through the event, and Fleur will also send signed book plates for any books ordered. So please, in the comments section of your order, list who you would like the book signed to. I have had a few questions during past events from viewers who are accustomed to Zoom events. So to avoid any confusion, only our guest authors and myself will be able to participate through video and audio. You can interact with us through that chat box or through the Q&A. Now, a little bit about our authors. Donna Galante is the author of the middle grade adventure books Joshua and the Lightning Road and Joshua and the Arrow Realm, the best-selling paranormal suspense Element trilogy series for adults, and writes the popular Unicorn Island series for Epic. Donna is a fiction contest judge at nycmidnight.com and a member of From the Mixed Up Files of Middle Grade Authors blog. She often presents as a guest author at schools and lives with her family and two crazy cats in an old farmhouse that sadly has no ghosts. Fleur Bradley is an active member of SCBWI and MWA, where she is judged for the Edgars. She regularly does school and Skype visits, as well as librarian and educator conference talks on reaching reluctant readers. Originally from the Netherlands, she now lives in Colorado, not too far from the historic and haunted Stanley Hotel, which partly inspired the manuscript for Midnight at the Barclay Hotel. Hello, ladies, and welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm so excited that we're doing your book launch, Donna. I've been looking forward to this.
So have I. I know we've done so many in-person events. This is a whole new thing. I love it.
All right, well, I'll be back for the Q&A.
All right, sounds great. So
yeah, Donna, I think you wanted to read some first, right?
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. But first, I think I want to show everybody what they could win tonight. They could win a wonderful package of a $25 gift certificate to the Doylestown and Lahaska bookshops, which you can use online. Also unicorn stickers, notepads, pencils, an autographed book label from me. But the best part is you can win this really adorable LED unicorn nightlight, which I kind of wish I'd bought for myself because it's so cute. So definitely enter to win that tonight. And yeah, I was going to read a little bit from Unicorn Island, Fleur. Maybe that could like jumpstart our conversation and talk about our books. And I have this scene here. It's from the beginning of Unicorn Island, and we have our main character, Sam, who has had to move from Brooklyn, New York, to stay with her Uncle Mitch for the summer, who she's never met. And so this is a short scene where she first meets him. And she's in Foggy Harbor, South Carolina. Uncle Mitch's stone house sat at the end, alone and secluded, hugging the ocean. Its sloped roof pierced the murky sky. One light glowed in a back window. Crickets trilled around the house, creating an eerie buzz as waves lapped the shore. Sam crunched over the walking path made of shells, then thumped up the front porch steps and rang the doorbell, eager to escape the night. After a few minutes, the door was yanked open. A tall man with curly black hair and a bushy mustache loomed over Sam, the porch light deepening his frown. Yes? Sam swallowed hard. Uncle Mitch? His eyes grew wide, and he pulled her inside, slamming the door. Samantha, what are you doing here? Cool air washed over her from a ceiling fan that whirred above, and she shivered, shrinking under his glare. Then she remembered what Mom had said. He's the only family we've got. So that's the little bit of the beginning of Unicorn Island, which was so much fun to write. So
It's a fantastic hook. I love how you set up the characters, and I immediately was into the story. And for those of you who have not, it just came out, so you have not been able to read Unicorn Island, the illustrations too are just magnificent. It's such a great book.
oh yeah, I mean the illustrator Bethany Stancliffe. I mean, look at some of these illustrations she did. They're just beautiful.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's so atmospheric. She did a great job really bringing it to life.
Mm-hmm.
However, the same could be said for your book, Midnight at the Barclay Hotel. Some of the illustrations in here, which I love. Right, here we go. Here's some of them. They really bring the story to life too. So.
It's the mood of the story. Like that was great for me for Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, is that Xavier Bonnet, the illustrator, really understood the feel of the story, that sort of old-fashioned Agatha Christie mystery for kids. And it's just wonderful to see that part of the story come to life. And that was a first for me. I don't know about you. Was this the first time you had illustrations inside the book like that?
Absolutely. Yes. My first hardcover too. And so working with that illustrator, and I actually had to draw some illustrations myself to give them an idea of, things that I had created in my mind that, I know what they look like, but nobody else does. So
that's fascinating to me, that part of the process. So let's talk a little bit about Unicorn Island. How did it come together, and how did you just sort of crystallize that idea?
Well, it's pretty funny because I met with my publisher for lunch. We both live locally. And he said to me, I'd like for you to write a story about a girl who has to take care of a unicorn. Like, it was as simple as that. And so we bashed around the concept for about 6 months, and it grew into the story about this misplaced character, kind of a fish out of a water, trying to find her family and her family legacy and where she belongs. Because I really identify with that. I guess a lot of the themes of my book do with identity. I'm an only child like Sam in the book too, so that really resonates with me. I'm also adopted, and so growing up, I often felt like I didn't belong, I didn't fit in. Nobody else I knew was adopted. Nobody in my family was adopted. So that was my perception, that I didn't fit in and didn't belong. And I kind of bring that to my characters, trying to find that sense of belonging and sense of home, and that's what Sam does.
Mm-hmm. And you did an incredible job with that. And I don't have that background, but I could identify with that myself for all those times that, you sort of felt like the odd duck, or either new kid in town, or,
Right.
things like that. And this, just talking a little bit about the unicorn concept, but your setting is so vivid. And I think the illustrations bring that to life, but your writing as well.
Thank you.
So how did you develop that setting, and how does your process? I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a very outdoorsy person. I'm all about hiking, biking, kayaking, being in the woods. And so most of the story is outdoors, right? On this kind of outdoor adventure at sea on this island. And I originally had conceived it being actually off the coast of Maine, because I love Maine. I love Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor. But I realized, okay, if I have other books, seasonally, this isn't going to work, because they're not going to be crossing the ocean in December in Maine, right? That's not going to work. So I figured I needed like a warmer climate. I chose South Carolina. It's more sultry. And then I created the fog. I love fog because ever since I went to San Francisco, to the Golden Gate Bridge, and I saw this fog, it's like this mythical beast. It slinks into the bridge and underneath it, and it moves along. It's like alive. And that really stuck with me.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And so that's kind of what helped the setting. And then being in South Carolina, they have a lot of like live oak trees down there. And they, with the mossy beards, kind of look like ancient wizards. They're these gnarled ancient wizards. I loved that idea. My dad lives in North Carolina, near the border of South Carolina. So I kind of heading and made it into the book.
Yeah, that's such a tremendous part of the story. And that's what I really loved about it. So kind of segueing into that a little bit, you have mentioned to me, we were discussing the book a little bit, that you're really into mythology. So how did that come into play when you were writing Unicorn Island?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've always loved mythology. I still have my Greek mythology books from high school in my closet over there. And my first children's book series, Joshua and the Lightning Road, has that spin on mythology. And to make a segue here, this is actually what I tell kids when I do classroom visits for schools and they're worried about, they can't find an idea to write about. I tell them, look to mythology, look to borrowing from mythology and from history to come up with ideas, because authors do that all the time. And so I did that with the unicorn mythology for Unicorn Island. I did a lot of research, and actually here's 3 fun facts about unicorns that I didn't know before. One, they live peacefully in the forest, which I love because I'm in the forest every day. Actually, here's my walking stick. It's a blackthorn walking stick from Ireland.
That's so cool.
From one of my friend's fathers who got that in Ireland. It's real special. And so, yeah, so number 2, unicorns, their horn is called an alicorn. And number 3, this is probably the cutest part. A baby unicorn is called a sparkle. So, yeah, I love that. But I love mythology and looking to that and writing for kids, because I think there's so many story elements in mythology that kids can relate to. You know, in the mythology stories, you've got friendship, loyalty, loss, all of these things that kids are dealing with, you know, when they're young and coming into, and they can relate to. So, yeah, absolutely.
I love all that. I love all those details about unicorns and how passionate you are about everything. And that's one thing that we go back a bit to your Joshua books, and we just have always been in touch. And every time I see you, you're just so excited, and you're so excited about middle grade. And I love that because it's infectious and it makes me excited again. And I wanted to ask you, is what makes you love writing for that middle grade audience?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was, you know, part of it growing into it was also having my son come up through those middle grade years, but also renewing that love for reading middle grade and then falling in love with writing it. I think because that age between 8 and 12, it's a magical age. You have one foot in childhood where there's magic and anything's possible, and you have one foot in young adulthood where, you know, there's real life going on, right? So as a writer of that, I can stay in that magical place. It's wonderful, and anything is possible, and that joy of being that kid again, because that was the favorite part of my childhood during that age. You know, I grew up in a mountain in upstate New York. My playground was the forest with my dogs. That's where I would go write my poems and sing to the trees. Thankfully, nobody heard me, right?
Yeah, it's nice all the same. It sounds lovely. It really sounds very nice.
Yeah, it was great. But I actually wanted to ask you about some of your characters, because when I was reading Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, one thing I loved in your story, you have so much humor in it, right? You've got all this mystery and suspense going on, but there are some laugh out loud moments that just bust me up. And, you know, when you're in that tense part of the mystery, and I wanted to know, how did you add that in there? How did you decide, I'm going to have this humor in here and this is the way I'm going to go?
Yeah, so Midnight at the Barclay Hotel kind of started as I had a conversation with the librarian whose reviews I followed and who reviewed my books and really loves reluctant readers like I do and is passionate about reaching them. And she had mentioned when we met at a library convention, she's like, my kids really want a proper murder mystery. And I thought, okay, you know, I can do that. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's mysteries. But doing a murder mystery, Agatha Christie style is what I was thinking. Because that's what I love growing up, is difficult to do without making it dark. It couldn't be dark. It had to be a little bit like a cozy mystery. So one way to do that is just add some humor. Plus, I like to add humor as a way to counterbalance some of the darker parts of possibly, you know, the kids in the book are actually investigating the murder of Mr. Barclay, the hotel owner. So I knew I had to balance that out, some with humor. And also kids that age absolutely love it. Anytime anything funny comes along, you know, they're all over it. So I knew that I had to be at least a little bit funny in order to kind of get into that middle grade reader's head. And I think you and I connect there in the sense that I love that age as well. It's fun. There's not, you know, the jadedness of YA yet. They're old enough to understand bigger concepts and to understand that maybe the adults around them aren't always, you know, who they seem maybe, or they're starting to see them as actual people and not just a role that they play as parents. So it's a fun age group to write for. And this was kind of a true passion project for me. So it was really fun to put some humor around.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yeah. With the setting of this, what is it? The Stanley Hotel, right?
Yeah, well, so I started with the mystery and I wasn't sure where I was going to set it. And then we went and visited the Stanley Hotel here in Colorado in Estes Park. And for those of you who are a little bit older, that are watching, that would be the setting of The Shining, Stephen King movie. And it is truly spooky and historical and, slightly haunted, supposedly. So I thought, man, I got to set it there, but I'm going to make my own hotel so I can do what I like. So that's how the Barclay Hotel was kind of born, and I could, make it my own setting. But I think that's where we connect as well, is that strong sense of setting and imagination, and that ability to just be 12 again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And be in the moment, because that's what that middle grade age is. Like, teens are more, looking to the future or introspective, self-absorbed, but middle graders, they're just like in the moment. This is what's happening, right now. And so it's really, you've got that action going on. And one thing I loved about your characters too is that, because I guess this is kind of how I was as a child, they are really good at outwitting the adults.
and that's, you have to, as a writer, take yourself out of that adult role, which is really fun. You have to kind of, those kids have to go on an adventure, because otherwise there's not a story. But that also means they have to defy the adults to some extent and get into trouble and be a little bit in danger, as far as, within reason, obviously. But that's the fun part. You get to truly be a kid again.
Oh yeah, get to be a little bit of a rebel, right? Don't really get into too much trouble, but
yes. So that's one thing I noticed on your social media, because I follow you on Facebook and Twitter. You're always posting pictures of all these things you do, going out in nature, going on adventures. How do you draw from that, and where does that come from? Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, I think it definitely comes from my childhood, right? Growing up on that mountain in upstate New York, we lived on this old farm in this old federal colonial. We had like 10 acres, rock walls, an orchard, pear trees. I would just roam these woods. Actually, I would roam woods that weren't ours. Okay, so nobody really caught me. And my love for it grew from there. And so I really reconnected with nature this past year, right, with the pandemic going on. We made it our goal as a family to go out every week to the wildest place we could find and go hiking or kayaking or biking. So that really triggered it. And I also live near an old growth forest and another forest that's just got hundreds of acres. Nobody goes in. I go off for hours, and I have my walking stick. There's bald eagles and hawks and foxes. And I just feel like it's my meditation in nature. And when I come back, I feel like I've been somewhere else. And that's where I get all my story ideas. Like fully formed books come to me in the woods,
Sounds so nice.
Yeah, I love it. I just have to be in nature every day,
Mm-hmm. So speaking of which, what are you working on now? What's next in the Unicorn Island series?
Well, I've actually already finished book 2. It's called Secret Beneath the Sand, and that releases digitally in May on Epic, which is like the leading digital platform for kids. It's in most schools in North America, and they put it out in a 5-part serial. And then the hardcover will come out next winter. So that was super fun to write. More mystery, more adventure, more secrets, which I know you love to write about. All of your characters have a secret. I don't even know how you managed all that. But
it was fun. It was fun.
Complex. Yeah. I remember one thing I read about your book that described it, I thought, so well. It was Knives Out, the movie Knives Out meets Clue for kids. That is just so perfect.
Yes, it is. And what was nice is I could make the characters kind of over the top, and that's what I wanted, because in an Agatha Christie book, it is that really, of course, it's a British environment, but it's those characters that you can instantly define. I have a cowboy in there, a CEO, I have a librarian. So you instantly know sort of what they're about a little bit, only they have a secret and there's more coming out. So super fun. In your case, like the fantasy element is so strong. That's something that I don't, other than creating my settings and things like that. Fantasy is a little bit different. Talk to us a little bit about that element in Unicorn Island. Obviously there's unicorns, but.
Well, yes, unicorns, right? There has to be with the title. But I love to write stories that have magical elements set in the real world. So my Joshua books were completely made up worlds, but I really prefer writing magic in the real world. Again, that goes back to that middle grade age where we want to believe in magic, that it's in our real world, where we could turn around the corner and find it. And so having unicorns in the real world, that's just so fantastical to me. And that's really the kind of fantasy that I love, So it seems like it's so much more real, right? To be able to see a unicorn and touch it in your hometown, you know? Yeah, so I've always loved fantasy ever since I was a young girl. I actually fell in love with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I lived in England at the time. My parents, my family, we lived over there. And I actually went to like a Harry Potter kind of school. It was this big old estate, big old grand hall. And I even wore a uniform. I had like a bowler hat and a tie. And that's where I fell in love with reading and said, this is it. I'm going to be a writer. And I actually, relating to you, the first thing I wrote was a murder mystery screenplay that I had the kids act out in our neighborhood. So
how fun is that? That is really well. Now we of course want a book from you about like a boarding school in England. That's
I only got sent to the headmaster's office once because I kind of got in a little fight with a boy named Alistair and I ripped his sweater. But
troublemaker.
Yeah, right.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, the Unicorn Island. I love how seamless it is in the setting. I could imagine as a young girl reading. I would have loved this book because it feels like, oh, this could be right here in your own backyard.
Yes.
Look at this. So right. I think you do a tremendous job with it. I hope everybody gets a chance to read the book. Obviously, you can order it on the website, get it signed by Donna, which would be outstanding.
Yeah. We're both offering signed books tonight, right?
Yes. You can get mine as well. So, you'd be all set for fun middle grade, especially during these times when.
Absolutely. And actually, look how well they go together. Look at this, right?
I know. They're color coordinated. I love it.
We planned that on purpose, right?
I absolutely love it. So anything else exciting that we don't know about you, Donna, that we should know, or that we should know about Unicorn Island that we haven't covered in our conversation?
Well, a lot of people don't know that I used to be a photographer in the Navy. I worked for Fleet Intelligence Pacific, stationed in Hawaii. And the funny thing about that is our son is graduating high school and planning to move to Hawaii. And I had no influence over this whatsoever. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as Unicorn Island, I really can't wait for the next story to come out because there's more mystery in it. There's more secrets to uncover. Hopefully there'll be a third and final book because I know how it ends. I won't give away any spoilers there. But yeah, so in May that will come out in the Epic platform, next year in hardcover. And I'm super excited about that. I always love writing new characters into a series. Writing a series has more challenges, I think, than writing a standalone.
Yeah.
And you have series out, so you know how hard that can be, bringing that character continuity in and new characters and having a story arc that goes across the series is a challenge. Right?
Yes, it is. You do a tremendous job, though, and I love the cliffhangers. Everybody has to read Unicorn Island.
Oh, thank you. I love writing cliffhangers.
The next one. So that's great. And it's nice that we can read it as soon as May if we'd like. So that's all fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Anybody can get on the Epic platform. It's not just in schools. You can get a monthly subscription. It's really affordable for kids to go on and read, which has been really great with the pandemic as well. It's a huge digital library. So
yeah. And would you say, I would say so, but reading Unicorn Island, I also thought it would be a great classroom read or a book to read for parents and kids together. One thing I've noticed about Midnight at the Barclay Hotel that because of the pandemic has come about is that there's a lot more teachers reading it with kids over Zoom platforms and parents reading it with children at home because we're all at home more with our kids, educating our kids.
Yeah.
And I would say that for Unicorn Island as well, that's a great book for that.
I think absolutely for both our books, especially with the illustrations, because it's a good stopping point to talk, right? Yes. And put together what you've been reading with the visual aspect, like, oh, that's what it looks like. That's just what I imagined it like,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think there's so much to draw on that for kids too. One thing I talk about in my school visits as well is how it's really fun to draw a map of your world that you're writing about. And I show kids the maps that I've drawn that help the illustrator create the map because it helps you see your story that much better, where everything is in the story, in your village, in your house, on your island, So yeah.
Absolutely. I had to do that for the Barclay Hotel, which was a bit daunting because I'm not very good at drawing. So I had to draw a map of the hotel for the illustrator. And so the illustrator would know he was going to create a map as well. And it's in the book. So thank goodness he did it. Mine was not that good, but it also forced me to think, ooh, did I figure it all out okay? Does this room connect with the hallway? Is it all making sense? As I was writing and revising the story, as he
Right.
was doing illustrations, we were
Absolutely.
discussing this where I'm like, ooh, I hope I put everything in the right place, because in your imagination, it all makes sense. But
Right,
then
of course.
putting it in a map, you're thinking, maybe it's closer than I thought.
Did that really work out? And you've got a lot of things going on in your story too, going down different hallways and in secret places. And yeah, so
There's
that was,
secret hallways to secret rooms. And
that was,
yes, I had to really keep track of that. And it was purely my imagination. I took the Stanley Hotel and all the neat parts that I saw there. And then I threw in all the parts that I wanted to add, like a cupcake shop and,
yeah. Because who would want a cupcake shop? We all need a cupcake shop,
yes, and a
right?
giant library. I put my dream library in there. Those 2 levels with the little spiral staircase. And that
I
was
know the
fun.
picture in the book is amazing. Yeah. I actually put a place in Unicorn Island that is here in my local town. It's called the Full Belly Deli. I love that name, right? The Full Belly Deli.
Mhm.
And the illustrator did a great job of drawing that in the book as well. So
It's great. It's that combination of story and illustrations that I think make both the books a great candidate for reading aloud, and for kids to use their imagination, but also see a little bit of a picture of what things might be like. So,
well,
yeah.
so do you envision any more books in this as a series, or is it a standalone?
No, this is intended to be a standalone. I'm working now on another spooky book that's going to be set
Ooh.
on a spooky island with
Ooh,
a
I love it.
deserted prison on it. It's still in
Oh
the
my
works,
gosh.
top secret, but
Even better.
yes, and it's so fun, and I'm feel incredibly fortunate to write for this age group. So,
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And when you just said prison, I love to visit abandoned prisons. Like Alcatraz was like one of my bucket list items. So awesome. I live near Eastern State Penitentiary here in Philadelphia. I've been there like 3 times. Just so spooky and wonderful to imagine all the stories that, went on in there. So, I can't wait to read it. So hurry up
yes,
and write it.
yeah,
Right?
I'm revising it now next year sometime. It should be
Yeah,
out. So,
that's
yes.
great. That's wonderful. I have too many book projects on my plate. I have 4 books that I have to revise. Yeah, and
Wow.
get out there.
Yeah,
So,
it's fantastic though. That's such great news. I'm glad, because we all want to see more of your work, I'm sure.
and you too. Yeah, thank you.
So maybe we can open it up to questions now. I'm sure there's some people that
Absolutely.
would like to ask some questions.
Yes, all right.
Back to Chrissy.
Back to Chrissy. All right, so this question is for Donna from Lisa. Are you already working on the sequel?
Well, actually, the sequel, so book 2 does come out. Secret Beneath the Sand comes out May on the Epic platform in a digital format, and the hardcover will come out next winter. I'm hoping this year I'll find out if there will be a 3rd and final book in this series. So we'll have to wait and see.
I have faith.
Me too. And from Mary, how did you get the idea for this book?
For Unicorn Island?
Yes.
Well, my publisher threw out there, I'd like you to write a book about a girl who has to take care of a unicorn. And it really grew from there about it being on an island, that because I love islands and the whole coastal mystery and fog. And it really grew from the setting, from that with the characters.
Mhm. And let's see. This question is for both of you, and Donna, I'll have you answer first. Can you tell us about your writing routines?
Oh, yes. Wow. Well, I set my schedule the night before for the next day in like half an hour increments. What I do, I try and write creatively first, because in the morning, I'm more of a morning person. I'm up at 5 a.m. and I write. So I try and get like 3 or 4 hours in writing a revision. And then I have to do other stuff like either editing or freelance work that I do writing as well, and promotion and marketing, especially when you have a book coming out.
Mm-hmm. Same for me. I start early as well. Usually a few hours of creative work first. So my best energy is spent on that. And it does depend sometimes. Right now, because of the pandemic, I have a lot of virtual school visits. So I talk to kids sometimes in the mornings. But I try to at least spend 2 or 3 hours a day just writing, revising, working on something creatively. So there's always something new going on. I'm usually in a better mood if I write a little bit every day.
Yeah.
If I get pushed out by, other events or things that are going on that kind of keep me from writing, if there's too much marketing, that sort of other stuff going on, then I can't write and then I get grumpy. So then
Me too.
back to it. It's a writer thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And is it difficult to stay on schedule when writing? For both of you, Donna, you can go first.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it is. Definitely. Like I said, I try and stick to my schedule. I write it in pencil though, so I'm flexible and I can change it if things happen or a crisis comes along. But like Fleur said, I have to do some kind of writing each day. I feel like I'm moving forward, even if I'm only writing 500 words or I'm editing, a couple of pages. I'm moving forward in my manuscript. So that's what really keeps me going. That I focus on that first before everything else.
Mhm. I will say sometimes if I get stuck, that can be difficult. If I start the day excited to write and I hit some sort of creative roadblock because a plot point won't work out or the words just aren't coming. Some days are more productive than others. And sometimes it's difficult to stay on schedule then. And I usually try to do something like go for a walk like Donna. I like to go hiking as well and sort of get nature into my veins and then I'm back to work. So
yeah.
All right, this one is for Donna. It says, "Hi, Donna, this is Ben. Have you thought about your next book series yet? We read Unicorn Island on Epic."
Oh, that's so awesome. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for joining us tonight. My next book idea, well, I'm working on 4 right now. I'm actually working on books that are set in the real world, but that have some magical elements to them as well, like magical realism. And they all take place in the woods or at a lake or at a campground. So there's lots of outdoorsy things. One I'm working on right now I love has to do with loons on a lake and the Appalachian Trail, hiking the Appalachian Trail. And you can see my Uncle Elmer in the background here, my great Uncle Elmer. He hiked the Appalachian Trail all the way through 2,200 miles when he was 67 back in the 60s. And he was my inspiration for this book about the Appalachian Trail.
Okay, here's another one for Donna. What is your favorite mythological story, and do you have a favorite myth retelling?
Oh my gosh, this is like a 2-part question here. My favorite mythological story, I have to say, it really has to do, oh gosh, it's really hard. Probably Apollo, how he dragged his chariot across the sun. I love Greek mythology. And I wrote a story about Apollo and his chariot when I was a little kid. I actually read it and I've recorded it. It's on my YouTube channel. So I've loved Greek mythology for a long time. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Second
your favorite.
the favorite myth retelling.
Oh, my favorite myth retelling. Probably, I would say it has to do with, oh my gosh, it's a really hard question too. Anything to do with King Arthur, okay? I love King Arthur. I actually have a book idea for King Arthur spin with a female character. But yes, when we lived in England, I made my parents take us to Tintagel, which was King Arthur's legendary castle. I read everything about King Arthur. So that's my favorite mythic story.
This is for both of you. Do you miss doing live book launch events, or are you more comfortable with the video format? Donna, why don't you go first?
I so miss in-person visits. I do. There's nothing better than walking into an auditorium with 350 students and they think you're a rock star.
Yeah.
You don't get that from grown-ups, writing for grown-ups. And they're so uninhibited and they have asked the greatest questions and they're so smart and creative. That is such a rush, and to know that your story is affecting them and they can connect with your characters really is so meaningful. It's the best.
I agree. I miss the live events. There's a spontaneity to the interaction with the kids. So usually afterwards they'll come up and tell me things they'll tell me what books I should be reading. Like I should be reading Dog from them because it's really good. Or they'll be saying, I have this mystery story and I'll tell you the idea and just really random stuff. On the upside with digital or virtual events, I can visit schools all over the world. I did a school visit with a school in India, and I can do visits with, I'm in Colorado. So for me to travel to the East Coast, say, or where you are, Donna, or even to the West Coast to California would be counterproductive productive as far as time and cost. So now I can visit those kids. Plus, there's what's a little bit neat is that I can see their faces and they're at home. So I get to see those kids in their home environment. And sometimes there's a little sister on the lap they're taking care of, or the puppy will come in,
Yeah.
or their bedroom with all the pictures on the wall. And so there's a special part about the virtual nature of our interaction now is that we get to be a little more personal sometimes with people on a home level. So there's some upsides, and I try to take those as much as possible right now.
That's very true. And I just got a ding here from Chrissy, who let me know who the winner is of the unicorn themed package. So I'm going to announce it right now. I hope she's here. Randy Kennedy has won the unicorn themed package with the nightlight, the gift card, the bookmarks, all that good stuff. So Chrissy here will be giving me your email. I'll be contacting you and let you know how I can get your fun prize to you. So Randy Kennedy, congrats.
That's so cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, super fun. I see her commenting E, so she's very happy.
Oh, yay!
Oh my goodness. Okay. And Donna, are you already working on the sequel? Will there be a sequel?
Well, yes, actually, that's the book that comes out in May on Epic. And hopefully we'll get the third and final book in the series too. I can't give anything away. No spoilers, you know. So yeah.
And this is for both authors. Do either of you have a favorite setting to read or write about? Fleur, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Oh, you asked me the hard one first. Sometimes I like the beach. Like right now, I can't go to the beach. So then I like to read about people in a different environment, maybe somewhere tropical. So that sometimes it's that. I'm from the Netherlands. So for me, also a little bit of Europe is sometimes nice, either home or I also like my, because I love Agatha Christie, I love my British mysteries. So sometimes I like a little bit of London or a little bit of England because we lived there a little while. And so yes, different settings definitely are fun to read about. And I think as a writer, there's so much to draw from. I think both Donna and I have been talking enough about how much setting influences us, and we use that because you can use it as a character in a story, which is so fun. And it's fun to read about as well, I think.
Yeah, for me, I love to write, again, about the outdoors, you know, nature, the woods, the forest, all of these things call to me. One of the books I'm writing right now has to do with the woods and about actually communicating with trees. That's something I'm really fascinated with and have done a lot of research on. But I'm also want to challenge myself. And so another book I'm looking to create, I want to do a lot of research on this setting, and it actually will be occurring in a circus. So that's something I know nothing about, like a steampunk kind of circus story. So I can really go down a rabbit hole with research, but I know it'll be super fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
Okay, and if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to click on Ask a Question, and you can enter them there. I thought I'd go through the unicorn comments.
Oh, sure. That's super fun.
Yeah. All right. So, hi, everybody in chat. Thanks for participating. We have 7-year-old Nora says she loves unicorns because they are magical.
Oh, totally, Nora.
They
Yes.
are magical. And Randy, who is our raffle winner, said, I love unicorns because they combine some of my favorite things: horses, folklore, medieval history, and magic.
Oh, I love that. All of that.
That's a good one. That was
Yes.
that was Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 8-year-old Leo. I love unicorns because they make you happy when you're sad.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
They sparkle, right?
They do. Let's see here. And just lots of comments about, they love the book. Erica, I love unicorns ever since The Last Unicorn. That's my favorite movie of all time.
Yes. And I know who that Erica is. Yes. And I know that's her favorite movie.
Absolute favorite. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. That does not make you old, because if that makes you old, that makes me old, and then
No,
it's a whole
it's
thing.
timeless. It's The Last Unicorn is timeless.
Oh my
I'm pretty sure
goodness.
unicorns keep you young.
That's
I love
right.
that
Mhm.
so much. And Lisa, I love unicorns because they are magical. They're
Yes,
magical.
they are.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in. Did you have any closing comments? Anything else you want to tell us about the book?
Well, as far as for Unicorn Island, I hope everybody gets a chance to read it. It's not just for young readers, it's for readers, 8 to 108. For anybody who loves that magical aspect of childhood and wants to revisit that and believe that unicorns are real, that any kind of magic is real. Definitely. And super fun to read aloud with your kids too. I know, like as Fleur has said, a lot of people have been telling me they've been doing that as well, especially during this time of what's going on. So yeah, look forward to the next part of the story. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it.
Mhm. Absolutely. I hope everybody picks up the book. I think it's another thing I kind of forgot to say. It's hard to find younger middle grade. And this is a special book that I think fits that category perfectly. So I'd highly recommend picking it up if you sort of have a kiddo or you yourself like to read just a little older than chapter book, but not quite ready for the really big books yet. This is a perfect solution to that. And there's not a lot of them. So yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
And just a reminder that Donna's going to be stopping by tomorrow. I'm really excited because I'll get to see her
I know.
distance, but in person,
Right.
to sign any books that were ordered or that you may order tonight from the Doylestown Bookshop. And Fleur is going to send signed book plates. So if you'd like your book personalized, just mention in the order comment section to check out who you'd like your book signed to, and I'll take care of that for you. I'd like to thank you both for being here tonight. This was so much fun. I was so happy that we could do this, Donna, because we've done
Yeah,
so many book events with
I know.
you, and it wouldn't feel right if we didn't. So
No, absolutely.
congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting both of us tonight. It's really wonderful to be here and to reach more people, right? That more than just local too. So absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's been a great
Well,
evening. It was just uplifting to talk to you both and to hear
Yes,
from the audience. It's been a
you
really
too.
nice evening. So thank
thank you
you.
so much. Thank you everybody for watching, and good luck with your book, Donna. Good
Thank
luck. I
you.
think it's going to do really well.
Mhm.
Thanks. Bye now.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye bye.